Hello ladies, I hope you're all doing well. My name is Miss 𝐃𝐲𝐬𝐿 and thank you for joining me today. In this particular video, we'll be looking at the typical approach of a misogynist who dates, and we'll be also looking at some dating red flags. If this is something that you enjoyed watching, please indicate by pressing the like button and also subscribe to join our community of ladies who are also on code. Please stay tuned for more commentary towards the end of this video. Ladies, focus on the content of this video, do not mind this guy. These are the 4 signs of dating a misogynist before we go into how a misogynist is experienced on dates.
Let me tell you guys about the most frustrating date in my life. I think I've touched on this a few times, but I've not gone into detail. And excuse, had 2 cocktails, that's all, and I'm hungover. No more alcohol for me. So at the time I was blogging, and to be honest, that reminds me, I've got a blog, I need to restart that, I need to start writing it. And I was a bit late for this day. I let him know I'm running a bit late, I'm really sorry. I had to exercise, and I had the blog post to write before a certain time. I'm really sorry, I'm running late. Before I left the house, I thought, let me send him a link to the blog post, and then that'll give us something to talk about, on our day. And he actually goes to me, he goes, listen, don't spam me on WhatsApp. And I'm like, excuse me? He goes, don't send me, don't spam me. I was like, no, that's my blog post. I was just thinking he must have misunderstood what I've sent him. He goes, yeah, whatever it is, don't spam me. And I was just, well, okay. Okay. I go to our meeting spot and he's purposefully late. And I'm not stupid. I know he was late on purpose. I know when I'm being, put in my place. I was late first, but still, that's just a prickish thing to do. He arrives, no apologies. We get to the restaurant. The waiter kind of gives us a choice of where do you want to sit, and I move to a table. He goes no, and he sits at the table he wants to sit at, and kind of asserts this sort of authority, which makes the waiter only look at him and not me throughout the whole evening. Hard to explain, but he made it no, I'm the authority figure, not her. And then, long story short, we spent the entire date arguing over how men are better than women, how women cannot work efficiently if they are pregnant or if they are on their period, how women should stay in the kitchen and men should be the breadwinner. And by this point, I'm thinking, you're talking about all these gender roles and stuff. We are arguing about it for over half an hour. And I just say to him, if there's all these gender roles in place, if you really believe all of that, why didn't you pay for the meal? Because it was Nando's. We got there. He goes to me, take your phone out. Let's order. I ordered my meal. He ordered his. We paid for ourselves. Yet you're going to sit there talking about gender roles and stuff like that. I'm not against paying for myself, but don't sit there and talk about how men should be the breadwinner, blah, blah, blah. And then after our date, I guess how do I put this? He seemed like the type of guy, he wants his ego stroked. He lets the women chase him. And because I wasn't chasing enough, he starts all this stuff oh, I'm not even that into you, blah, 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 but let's meet up again. It's funny he should say that, because on the date it was very awkward. Because of all the misogynist things he was saying, I kind of made it clear that we're probably not going to go much further. And he had this complex. He suddenly goes really loudly, so you wouldn't be with me. And I'm like, no, probably not. And he goes, why? And I'm like, because I don't think we're compatible and our views are different. He goes, why? And he's being loud, people are staring. People are staring in Nando's, and it's just a bit oh my goodness. Settled down, obviously, because it got a bit embarrassing, but all this stuff about I'm not into you and whatever. My point is, regardless, obviously, that didn't work out. We blocked each other. But what I'm trying to say is, don't date a misogynist. And don't ignore blatant red flags like I did.
One that finally had me this man is a misogynist was because we went bowling with his friends, right? This was the first time that I was meeting them. There was no other girls there. And they were literally just having their own boy conversation, just talking about stuff that I didn't know about. And there were 2 times when we were in the car that I tried to jump in the conversation. And the first time somebody talked over me, the second time I was kind of ignored. So I was kind of just okay, whatever. And I still would occasionally talk to him while we were bowling. I would say things to him on the side. But they were in their, when guys get in that mode where they're just so into their guy conversation that they're just completely ignoring me. It was literally that the entire time. So I wasn't upset, I was just chilling, minding my own business. After we got home, he started an argument about how I wasn't smiling enough while we were there. He was like, you only smiled like once or twice. And he was like framing it in this like, you kind of came off as a bitch. And I was just kind of like, I was not upset. I was literally just chilling. But anytime I tried to jump in on the conversation, I was either talked over or ignored. So I was just kind of like, whatever, they're having their boy conversation, I'm just gonna let them talk and I'm just gonna hang out. But he kept like focusing on this, you weren't smiling enough, you weren't smiling enough. And I was kind of like, okay, if you wanted me to just come to smile and look pretty, like you gotta be paying for that, because I don't do that for free. And especially whenever you're completely ignoring me, like what do you want from me, you know? And what's crazy to me is that there had been times before that I was explaining to him how something he did was like insensitive or hurtful to me. And I would be like, I wasn't yelling, but I was just like upset about it. And he would mention something about how like I don't have a very pretty face on. And I was kind of like, what is your obsession with me not smiling and not looking pretty at all times? Like, I know this is a shocker, but women are actually complex human beings, and I'm not just here to look pretty. He also thought it was gay to have a reusable water bottle. He acted like a little bit scared of gay people, so part of me kind of wonders if he was like such a misogynistic dick to women because his true soulmate is just a man, and he's overcompensating for that feeling by aggressively being scared of gay people.
I posted the screenshot from a Hinge conversation on Twitter, and oh my goodness, the responses are absolutely insane. Like, we just have to talk about it. I'm posting the screenshot here, but the long and short of it is, on my profile it says open with the time and place for the first date, and on Hinge in New York City it has you put your exact neighborhood, not just like New York City broadly. So he suggests a bar that's in East Williamsburg, and his profile says he lives there, and my profile says I live on the west side of Manhattan, not close at all to this bar. So I basically clock what he's doing, and I'm like, I bet that place is 2 minutes from you. He says yes, it was 2 minutes from me, and I was like, I bet you didn't consider at all the fact that I live super far. And he's like, no, I did consider it, but I figure you probably don't get out here that much, and this is just like such a nice patio. First of all, this is the goddamn patio. This looks like the Salvation Army opened up a lounge with all the furniture nobody bought in 1984. Like, let's be so serious. For a first date that you want me to travel almost an hour away from my home for, or spend $60 if I choose not to switch multiple subway lines to get to it. But even if it was the most beautiful bar in the world, how inconsiderate is it for you to ask a woman to travel so far out of her way to meet you at a place that you literally can see? You could spit on it from the window in your bedroom. That is insane. But it is very smart if you are a guy who wants to get a girl far away from where she lives but super close to you so y'all can have a drink on someone's grandma's sofa and then walk back to your place afterwards because you want to get some. That doesn't even make you a bad person, it just makes you a certain kind of person. So the number of guys who are just acting like that's the most wild insinuation is just so ridiculous, and I really just need you guys to like come back to earth and be really serious for a moment. There are lots of older guys who are like, no, this is exactly what it is, but like the young guys who I guess are still trying to keep up this charade for the non-existent women who want to date them, you can give it up now. The other people who need to give it up are the ones who are outraged that I didn't suggest another place or say, hey, you know, that's actually pretty far from me, like, can we meet somewhere else? Am I the only one who saw the message that he knew I lived really far away and just did not care? This may seem like a super small thing, but not even offering to meet me halfway for a first date is super indicative, one, of his intentions with me, and then two, the fact that he's just not considerate of me or my time, and probably wouldn't be later down the line if we started seeing each other. The same people would call me crazy if I came to Twitter complaining about a partner of mine and one of their bad qualities that they showed me literally the first time we ever met, but I decided to look past it and continue to be with them and now resent them for it 8 months later or 8 years later. And then of course people trying to say that I'm high maintenance for this when I literally have the most basic standards ever. And then following that up with how I'm gonna be single and miserable forever because I have even one standard. Y'all have to realize that being single is not an illness. Men think women are as desperate for companionship as they are for sex, and that is the problem. You never have to lower whatever standards you have or take less than what you feel like you deserve in order to meet another man where he is, because you'll be fine. You are never, I promise you, that desperate for a date, a relationship, or anything. Also, not my responsibility to date everyone and have zero standards. So the people who act like, oh my god, if you're single, like, you just need to date anybody, just take what you can get because, oh my god, you're single, like, y'all are weird. So if a standard or boundary is not that important to you and you want to overlook it for someone, by all means go for it. But if it is something as simple as wanting someone to be considerate of you, or literally anything as crazy as like wanting the guy to be as tall as Wizard Kelly and making $1 billion a year, yeah, you're probably not going to find him, but you don't have to lower your standards for anyone. Like, you can be single for the rest of your life and you'll probably be happier than half the people in relationships. So there's my spiel for the day.
It is clear that misogynists completely suck at dating, and the reasons stem from their thoughts and feelings towards women as a collective. Whilst we have the choice to choose who we date, it has become harder to avoid misogynist males because, for whatever reason, they insist on dating women. So why do misogynists date women? Could it be that they want to pose as reflections of masculinity, believing that this can only be achieved by having a woman? This makes the most sense because masculinity is often mistaken for having dominance, control, and leadership. The only way misogynists can express this is by being with the insinuated weaker counterpart. Oftentimes, their failures in dating causes them to apply manipulative tactics like love bombing to get them closer to achieve their goals. Misogynists also bank on women who have low self-esteem, low self-worth, and are desperate to being in a relationship. And these are the only reasons why a misogynist can attain a woman. Ladies, to discern the difference between actual interest and love bombing, I've put together a Love Bombing 101 guide. It's available now to be downloaded, and this will help you evade any form of manipulation in attempts to put your guard down.